Hello y'all and welcome to this Patreon exclusive video. Gonna do it again this year. The top 10 is of 2023. This is just a handful of albums that made the list for whatever reason. Either they were just painfully mediocre or I just didn't have a lot to say about them. For whatever reason, I look back on these records and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I don't know. It's not even like a mediocre list. It's just a list. These are the top 10 of 2023. No particular order except for the top record, the top of the year. The rest of them, no particular order. Again, they're records. There's not much to really care about. Man, Damon Albarn, he was just on autopilot this year, wasn't he? I remember when the Magic Whip came around and the prospect of a new Blur album was fresh and exciting and new. And like, man, even when this album got announced, there was just an overwhelming wave of, oh yeah, I guess Blur still technically exists. And then the album came out and like, I don't know, it's kind of the usual with a legacy act like this. You'll have your set of diehards who love it to tears no matter what. Then you have your set of diehards who love it for like the first month, maybe two, and then forget it completely exists. And then you have the rest of us who are just like, oh yeah, that Blur record. I guess Blur did drop a record this year. Don't remember a lot about it, but that was also, out of all the crazy shit to happen in 2023, that was also on the list. Shame I don't remember anything about the album. Oh man, it wasn't just you. Again, I don't hate Greta Van Fleet. I understand why they exist and who they're for. And I just realized I'm not a part of that particular audience. People have always asked me to jump on the Greta Van Fleet hate wagon, but I don't know, occasionally the tunes are there. I actually did kind of like their last record, which was this big ol' Farewell to Kings era kind of Rush adjacent thing. I don't know, even though it was a kind of a knockoff thing, which is something this band really needs to learn to stop doing. I don't know, it did bring the tunes. There were a few songs off that record I actually liked, and like with this one, I don't know, it's got a few okay tracks. If I shut my brain off and just don't think much about it, yeah, it's alright to hear in the background. I don't know, Greta Van Fleet, they are a band, I feel like at this point, they get overhated, because they've already proved to themselves, they've already won their audience over. I don't know, those Greta Van Fleet fans, they are ride or die. They're not going anywhere no matter how hard you cry. I don't know though, the music should be better, and at this point it still isn't, but like not to the point where I can get all angry and huffy or whatever. I don't know, it's getting angry at this band is like getting angry at Nickelback. It's like, come on. It's so passé at this point. I don't know, you're gonna wail and cry about how Greta Van Fleet is terrible. Yeah, it's been done. Get a new song. Okay, boomer. You know, for a lot of artists to end up on this list, the ends of 2020 whatever, usually that's a mark of shame. That's like a, oh, you didn't do so hot this time. Okay, that's, you know, understandable. Occasionally, for an artist, though, it might be a bit of a gold star. For Post Malone, this definitely feels like a gold star inclusion, because, like, man, I've never been the biggest fan of Post Malone stuff. His delivery is, like, really at best, it's just derpy and idiotic and harmless. At worst, it can be really whiny and self-pitying and even kind of toxic if you really dig down into it. I don't know, Post has never been an artist that's really won me over. I've listened to a few albums here and there. I don't know, most of the time I barely have enough to even say after listening to a Post Malone record, but this was not the case. I feel like him moving in a bit more of a guitar-driven direction, him focusing on his, like, rock and folkier kind of roots a little bit more. It's a more interesting direction than anything else I've seen him do, and while I didn't love this record, again, it was just too bloated, it had more, moments than outright moments on it. Like, I wouldn't say it was great, but it was, in a weird way, better than it had any right to be. That having been said, I would have a hard time finding anyone to recommend this to, but it had moments on it that I actually remember, and I remember positively, no less. A+ for improvement. This one honestly hurts. I was expecting so much better out of this. I mean, granted, it is an EP, and it does feel just like a fun little throwaway kind of project. I don't know, it doesn't seem like something they put their whole ass into, so like, I can't get upset about it, but man, again, I figured drab Majesty, especially in a year like 2023, where there was so much good, goth, pop, synthwave, darkwave, especially in a year where drab Majesty could have cleaned up. It's kind of weird that they released probably the worst thing they've ever done to date. But again, it's short, it's snacky, it's not even all that terribly offensive, it's just not very good. It's just not very good for what it is, and I figured they'd be better at it. Not enough to get, like, worked up over, but maybe, I don't know, if these are the ideas you're carrying into the next record, fellas, maybe reconsider them a little bit, because this wasn't great, and I definitely don't want a whole record of this. Just throwing that out there. Oh man, you know, Todd and Lena were so nice to have me on the Song vs. Song podcast. I sincerely appreciated that. They were lovely hosts, and it was a lovely time. Shame Miley Cyrus just didn't give us much to talk about. Yeah, what the hell was going on here? Miley's heat and hype was just absolutely livid after Plastic Hearts. And you know, I wasn't even expecting her to do just Plastic Hearts Part 2. I knew she was gonna do something different. Miley doesn't like to stick around and do the same thing twice, not for too terribly long at least. So I knew a curveball was coming. I just... What a boring, meaningless, nothing burger of a curveball, though. Again, 2023 was the year to branch out and try new shit. But again, not all of it worked, and Miley's sort of, whatever the fuck her weird concept was to the dual-sided nature of this, whatever it is, it didn't come across. And this album was just a big, mostly boring plate of nothing. Again, coming off of Plastic Hearts, just kind of makes this one look even worse by just comparison, but I wouldn't say it's her worst. I wouldn't even say it's that bad of a record. It's just thoroughly mediocre. And man, again, Miley's coming off a hit, so to be this blecky with her follow-up, yeah, that one just kind of stings a little bit, but not worst of the year material, not to me at least. Is this a hot take? I don't even know if this is a hot take. This one's probably a hot take. But again, like, y'all, I just had trouble with metal this year, and maybe that's a me problem, to be honest. I don't know, there was a lot of decent metal that came out. It was almost like hip-hop. I heard a lot of stuff that I thought was either decent to even, okay, pretty good. How many great metal albums, like great metal records, came out this year? This is the part where you all chime in with 500 records that I thought were great. But man, you know, I mean, I'm happy for you. I ain't even trying to clown, but like, I did not think as much of this stuff was great, and I listened to a decent amount of metal too. I tried, people. Again, 2023, year of the curveball, year of experimentation, year where everybody's doing crazy shit. But man, I did not like a lot of the experimentation that Code Orange did on this record. Nu metal is not a look for them. Nu metal, alt metal, the kind of, I don't know, these guys, in their own weird way, were trying to make, like, a Mike Patton adjacent record. Thank God they didn't fail nearly as badly as Avenged Sevenfold did. But that also makes it, like, less interesting, too. Like, I don't know. I liked this album when Code Orange was being Code Orange, in the moments where they sounded more like their old selves. But this record wasn't about that. They were trying to not be their usual selves, and, I don't know, maybe there is another style or another thing they could do that would still make it sound Code Orange and still make it sound really good. But whatever this album was, it wasn't that. It had moments that saved it for me, but on the whole, I really didn't enjoy this. This one was probably a fair contender for a dishonorable mention. I don't know, I'm sorry if that breaks a few hearts out there, but I did not care for this one. Oh, I feel like I should like this album more, shouldn't I? It's the Gaslight Anthem. I've been a big supporter of the Gaslight Anthem for years now. I love their classic records. I've even reviewed them a few times here and there, and I've generally had really positive things to say. I like this band. When they broke up, I was pretty, I felt pretty bad about it. It was like, oh man, they were great. But it is what it is, I guess. And then they come along and reunite, and it looks like it's going to be this wonderful return to form, and well, it kind of is, but at the same time, here's the thing. They haven't changed, but I feel like a lot of us definitely have. I don't know, it just doesn't hit the same as it did back in the day, and they haven't really adapted or grown or really tried anything too bold or new from the time that they last left off. They're basically picking up almost exactly from where they left off from their last record, which, I mean, they've been out of commission for 10 years. It's not like it's, or whatever years, I don't remember. It makes sense that they wouldn't evolve and grow. They literally didn't exist, but I don't know. Again, they haven't moved on, but we have, or I certainly felt like I did. I don't know, there just wasn't much happening on this record. I don't know, there were some decent enough melodies to follow along with, some decent hooks here and there, but, I don't know, the lyrics did nothing for me. That Bruce Springsteen cameo, which felt like a match made in heaven, that felt like one of those things that was years and years in the making, like one of those Dream Team kind of collaborations that finally actually happened, and the song where Bruce actually shows up. I couldn't tell you much about it, honestly. I figured something like this would be a bigger deal, but I guess that's just 2010 me talking. It felt hard to get excited about this. Again, in a year where everyone is doing kooky new shit, someone showing up to just kind of do the same old, even if it's been a long time since we've seen their same old. It's still the same old, and like it was fine, but I don't know, I got enough Gaslight Anthem in my life for now. I don't really need any more. Sorry. Again, just Damon Albarn on autopilot, copy-paste my comments about Blur and stick them in the Gorillaz segment here. I could basically call that a segment. I just felt like Damon Albarn was phoning it in. I mean, to get a Blur and a Gorillaz record in 1 year would have been mind-blowing in any other year. But in 2023, A, there was much more interesting stuff going on, just all over the map, and B, like, neither the Blur nor the Gorillaz record was very good. I feel like more people liked the Gorillaz record than I did, so again, it's not bad. It's definitely not their worst record, but I don't know, there's a decent concept here. There's some decent collaboration going on, a lot of guest features on this thing that makes sense, at least. I don't know, why does this album still feel like a nothing burger? This album shouldn't feel like a nothing burger, but man, I couldn't hum you one riff from this thing, or name you one other thing about it. I don't know, y'all. I feel like Damon Albarn, at this point, with the level of work he's been putting out lately, I feel like it wouldn't be a bad idea to just, like, take a few years off. I don't know, man. How are we ever supposed to miss you if you never leave? I don't know, take a break. It sounds like you need it, man. Ooh, man, it feels like almost every artist I've given previous Album of the Year awards to just had to release something in 2023. More's the pity that a lot of them weren't necessarily the best. And yeah, these guys definitely should have done better. It's weird. This album, it's so not Shakari's style. It's ultra short. It doesn't really have a firm concept, you know, tying all the songs together. It's weird in that it just feels like a collection of songs they just scraped together from other projects or other session work. It sounds like a smattering of other things they just sort of stuck together on a record and just said, okay, here's our record, whatever. I don't know, we didn't put a lot of heart and soul into this one, but here's a record for you. It's weird saying that about an Enter Shakari record, too. Enter Shakari is great at building these huge concepts and these huge soundscapes, and by having their albums feel like one big experience connected by a lot of smaller points of interest and whatnot. They're great at making these huge, epic albums. And then they just decide, we'll just fob one off. This one's like barely 40 minutes. Whatever, that's our next album. I don't know. We're busy doing other shit. I don't know. It's just weird for a Shakari album to be this low stakes. And again, to be this nothing. I don't know, but like, guys, put a little bit more effort into the next one. It doesn't have to be the biggest concept or anything in the whole wide world or whatever. Just like, it's gonna take more effort than this, is all I'm saying. And without further ado, the album of 2023 is... So, fun fact. A video project I had in the works up to the point where I had notes taken about it. I had done the research. I'd listened to their entire discography. I basically got this close to actually writing the script and making the video, but at the last second I decided, this shit isn't going to be worth it, and ditched the whole thing. Do you know what that video was going to be? A how to get into on Metallica. Yep, I still have the notes, and I may still salvage that video somewhere down the line. I don't know, how to get into Metallica, I know somebody would watch that. I wanted to do that just as kind of a means to sort of, work off of their new album release and, I don't know, get a little bit of piggyback off of it. But, I wanted to do that video, have it out in time for the new release, make it be a big deal. And then Metallica released probably one of their least big deal records, maybe in their entire career. Again, it's a nothing burger record, and it's weird for Metallica to release a nothing burger record. You know what I mean? Like, Metallica are this almost massive force in metal and even pop music, Metallica is the metal band, or they've become the metal band, at least if you're a certain age. They basically helped, in the mainstream sense of things, at least, snobs, don't crawl too far up my ass here. I'm just saying Metallica is a very important band. And man, when they would release albums, even super late into their career, they always felt important. Saint Anger was important in its own weird way. Death Magnetic was important. Even Hardwired to Self-Destruct had this sense of importantness behind it. Every Metallica album, at least in some way, felt like an event. this is the first record where it feels like, oh yeah, Metallica put something out too. I have a funny feeling that this is where Metallica is gonna be for the rest of their career. Every successive Metallica album is gonna sound something akin to this. They are in retirement mode. It's never gonna be like good. It's never gonna be like interesting ever again. I feel like Metallica, to their credit, it took them a long time to get here, but I feel like Metallica has finally plateaued. I don't know, this is the most boring, the most boilerplate, and the most inessential they've ever been. I usually pick my biggest ehhs of the year off of a lot of factors, but one of the biggest ones is usually just, oh yeah, I forgot that came out entirely, and oh yeah, Metallica released an album. I forgot Metallica released an album. I forgot Metallica released an album this year. Never thought I'd see the day, but And that's the video. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Again, thank you very much for your patience throughout this year. Thank you for watching the besties, and thank you very much for your support here on Patreon. Thanks again for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see y'all throughout 2024 this year in some capacity or another. Probably. I don't know. Y'all take care. I'll see you around, eh?